In Seattle, my father started teaching martial arts. He didn't ever look at people because of their race or their stature in life. If you had a sincere interest in martial arts, he would teach it to you. Taki Kimura was really his best friend, and Taki ultimately became his first assistant instructor in his first school, the Jianfang Kung Fu Institute in Seattle, Washington.
Bruce used to come to my high school, and he used to teach in the Chinese philosophy class. He was 5 years older than we were, and I do remember my heart going, pop, pop, pop. You know, he is sure cute. It wasn't long after that that I started taking Kung Fu lessons from him, and my relationship with him changed more from just a student to actually feeling that maybe there could be a connection between us. We both attended the University of Washington. We would get together on campus and attend our classes occasionally when we weren't doing Kung Fu or something else. And then when we were both done with our classes, we would rush back to his studio, which was just right there in the university district, and we'd turn on the TV and watch General Hospital every day. And it was like, we have to get there, it's almost 3 o'clock, you know?
In the 60s, marriages were happening in California, but the rest of the country, there were no interracial marriages. I mean, it was very difficult.
My mother was not thrilled when we decided to get married, and didn't want her daughter to have to suffer any negativity from others.
The ban on interracial marriage was lifted in 1968, but that didn't mean that ban lifted in people's hearts.
Bruce was very strong in saying, I want to marry Linda. I know that we are a good match. And so we did get married. We really did not suffer any prejudice from outsiders. And I think this had a great deal to do with Bruce's overwhelming personality.
I absolutely recognize that my uncle was a gorgeous man.
He's got swagger. We love his style. He had style the way Muhammad Ali had style in the ring.
He was like the Elvis of martial arts. He looked like a movie star.
He was always such a snappy dresser and so handsome.
Let's just put it this way, I think the one thing that's missing in my life right now is Bruce Lee, a man like Bruce Lee.
The first internationals is in Long Beach, California, and I was instructed to take Bruce Lee because he was the guest. So I was sort of like the tour guide for him. He demonstrated his art before he even demonstrated in front of the black belt audience. In the hotel room, he says, you can choose everything. You can side kick, you can round kick, and I'll just use my jab. He used a little bit more on the jab because when he knocked me out, he was a little bit more like a hook. Sort of came off the side here like that. So the ease in which he did it and explaining while he was doing it to me, that was mind-boggling for me.
When Bruce Lee came up and did his performance on his Kung Fu, it was something different I have never seen before. And he said the individual is more important than any style or system. That's when I said, I need to train with a man like this.
He was just so ahead of the times.
He'd go to Ed Parker's events in Long Beach, and they treated him like he was a god.
When he did his one-thumb push-ups, you could hear a pin drop.
He showed his speed, showed his power, showed his one-inch punch.
People always say, my gosh, Bruce Lee is the fastest person on earth.
He did these things so realistically that people didn't know if it was show business or the real McCoy.
When Bruce did the demonstration in 1964, before he had even come back to Oakland, where we lived at the time, I had received a phone call from William Dozier's office.
Jay Sebring, the famous hairstylist, happened to see my father at the Long Beach Internationals, and he cut the hair of William Dozier, and he said, oh my God, you've got to see this guy, he's amazing.
When Bruce came home, I said to him, you need to call this guy back, William Dozier. He's a producer in Hollywood, and he wants to see you.
Now look directly into the camera, Bruce.
Very dapper, he's got the suit and the tie, you know, white shirt. And he's so elegant, but he feels like a coiled cobra.
I understand you just had a baby boy?
Yeah.
And you lost a little sleep over it, have you?
3 nights.
He was 24, and he went in there as like, it's almost like, you're lucky that I'm here auditioning for you.
There was the finger jab. There was the punch.
Just the poise he had said it all.
There was the back fist and the low.
Even in conversation, you could feel his explosive nature.
Of course, then they use leg, straight at the groin, or come up.
That's a special kind of star power.
Or, if I can back up a little bit, they start back from here, and then come back.
All right.
It's kind of worried.
He never had any intention of going into show business. His passion was his martial arts. So he had a school in Seattle and a second school in Oakland. His plan was to open many, many schools all over the country.
Obviously, he started with the classical Chinese arts, which is Wing Chun. And then everyone knows about the fight in 1964 in Oakland.
Wong Jackman started to run around the room trying to get away from Bruce. And it took 3 minutes for Bruce to get him down on the ground and say, "Do you give up? Do you give up?" So Wong Jackman and those people all left. And I remember so clearly in my mind's eye, Bruce sitting on the steps in the back of the studio with his head in his hands.
And she said, "What's the matter?"
That was a fight that he realized the classical arts were not working for him. And he should have been able to put that guy down much sooner.
Bruce Lee has a fight with the guy and he doesn't beat him fast enough, so he goes off to rethink it all.
He said, "My training in Wing Chun, my classical art, didn't prepare me for this kind of a battle."
That was the beginning of the evolution of his own way of martial arts.
If you read the notes that he left behind, 1965, he starts to write, "My style is Western fencing, Western boxing, and Wing Chun."
He says we owe our knowledge to the Wing Chun, but we're going to go beyond the Wing Chun.
Bruce Lee took a lot from boxing. I think he felt boxing was more realistic in that you were trading blows.
He likes the boxing footwork because it's alive, it's moving, and it changes.
He was totally invested in watching boxing films, going way back to Jack Johnson, Gene Tunney, Dempsey.
What he took from Dempsey was the kinetic chain, how to generate power, the importance of a good jab. There's a lot about the alignment of the body.
Bruce had a huge collection of boxing films, and he thought the world of Muhammad Ali.
And what he would do was very unique. I once came in, lights were all out, and he's watching this 8mm film, and he's watching it backwards.
Muhammad Ali had a left foot forward stance, and Bruce would have a right foot forward. So he would run the films backward in the film editor and study them meticulously.
He would stretch and read and review an 8mm film of a boxer at the same time.
If I tell you I'm good, probably you will say I'm boasting.
A lot of people bring up the question, was Bruce Lee a real fighter?
If I tell you I'm no good, you know I'm lying.
Bruce was a brilliant fighter. I saw him beat up a guy on the set of the Enter the Dragon. It was a gangbanger, a Tong member, who we started giving him a bad time.
Pound for pound, I think he's probably one of the best fighters.
He had tons of street fights. With that kind of speed and footwork, he'd be a hell of a 135-pounder.
He was a 130-something pound lethal weapon.
Just put it this way. I have no fear of opponent in front of me. They do not bother me.
He has all the attributes that make a good fighter. He has the agility, he has the balance, he has the coordination, he has the dexterity.
And that should I fight, I have made up my mind, and that's it, baby.
You got the job on the Green Hornet, where you played Kato the chauffeur, mainly because you're the only Chinese-looking guy who could pronounce the name of the leading character, Britt Reed.
I made that as a joke, of course. And it's a heck of a name, man. Yeah. I mean, every time I said it, at that time, I was super conscious.
Mr. Reed's residence.
As a kid, we watched Green Hornet for him. We could care less about Green Hornet. He had a fly car. I'll give him props for the car. But Kato was incredible.
Everybody in the neighborhood was fighting to be Bruce Lee, not the Green Hornet.
A lot of stunt guys on the Green Hornet didn't know how to react because you do the old John Wayne. You throw a punch and the guy goes down. With him, it's boom, 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 lightning fast.
I just think about what my dad said about his first sort of foray into Hollywood. And there are all these seasoned actors doing their thing, and he felt like the only robot in the room. That's something I can really relate to in my life, like back when I was acting, and I was trying so hard to impress the right people.
When I hit the Green Hornet, I was not being myself, and I'm trying to accumulate external security, external technique, but never to ask what Bruce Lee would have done.
The beauty was that he immediately said, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. Sort of an awakening moment for him.
By the way, I did a really terrible job in that, I have to say.
Really? You didn't like yourself in Green Hornet? I didn't see it.